Donald Trump became the 47th president of the United States 4 days ago. And just 3 days ago, he launches the largest AI infrastructure project ever known to man, called Project Stargate. And unfortunately, there's a hidden intention behind this project that doesn't seem so positive as we initially thought for society. In fact, every single person sat behind Trump in his inauguration is unified under the same club and opinion set that perfectly aligns with what the hidden intention is of his $500 billion AI infrastructure project, Stargate. And what that is they all support universal basic income. This is where the government plans to give out a basic income to the lower and middle class in form of compensation for being completely displaced out of their jobs by AI automation and robotics. In fact, a document from the World Economic Forum actually states that while the idea of UBI is popular, Mark Zuckerberg, Elon Musk, Bill Gates have all championed it. There's actually a whole list of everyone that's involved in the idea of implementing a universal basic income, of all politicians, all business leaders, influential people. And as you can see, Sam Altman is there, Joe Rogan is there, Elon Musk is there, Mark Zuckerberg is there, Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates, Tim Cook, and the list goes on and on. For the sake of CEO of Apple, Tim Cook, he says he's hoping that he's still going to be alive to see the elimination of money. By the way, Tim Cook is 67. And that takes me on to Sam Altman. He says that with the expansion of AI, we're going to have a rapid, sticky unemployment and job loss. However, if we cannot find a new kind of work for billions of people, we'll be faced with a new idle class, which is an idle class of a whole portion of society who is completely inactive in the economy. The obvious conclusion is that the government will just have to give these people money, and there's been increasing talk about a basic income. Here's a video from Joe Rogan.
And I made a big shift. And my initial knee-jerk reaction was, get the fuck out of here. Like, universal basic income, just going to give people money, they're just going to be lazy, nothing's ever going to get done. That's a terrible idea. And then I started paying attention to the rise of AI and automation and how many jobs are going to get taken away from. And then once you see the actual numbers, it's pretty staggering.
Bearing in mind that this video was made 5 years ago. This is what Elon Musk has to say about it.
What to do about mass unemployment? This is going to be a massive social challenge. And I think ultimately we will have to have some kind of universal basic income. I don't think we're going to have a choice.
Universal basic income.
Universal basic income. I think it's going to be necessary. And I think some kind of a universal basic income is going to be necessary. Now, the output of goods and services will be extremely high. So with automation, there will come abundance.
So Elon Musk, Joe Rogan, Sam Altman, and Tim Cook all believe that universal basic income is on the way.
We should explore ideas like universal basic income to make sure that everyone has a cushion to try new ideas.
Now, why do they support it? Well, it's the only solution to mass unemployment, and that's what I'm going to link back to why Donald Trump's $500 billion AI project is going to cause.
We're going to get very rapid approvals in the United States, like with the AI plans. That's going to be a very big thing. The big problem is we need double the energy we currently have in the United States. Can you imagine? For AI to really be as big as we want to have it, because it's it'll be very competitive with China and others. So I'm going to give emergency declarations so that they can start building them almost immediately.
So Donald Trump clearly says that he's going to need AI to be very advanced for competitiveness against China, and we'll get on to why he wants that in a minute. Now here's Masayoshi talking about the new golden age.
This is the beginning of golden age. We wouldn't have decided unless you won. And yesterday, we agreed, we signed to make this happen.
So there's this new golden age terminology that's been thrown around recently. They signed off an agreement to start the golden age. What that links into is a new industrial revolution. I'm going to piece this all together so it makes sense. I'm just showing you the reality of what these world leaders are saying. And finally, to round this all off, this document from the World Economic Forum is talking about the fourth industrial revolution. They say the speed, breadth, and depth of this revolution is forcing us to rethink how countries develop, how organizations create value, and even what it means to be a human. And by the way, if you don't know who the World Economic Forum is, they are a very influential forum which connects world leaders and business leaders together to come together to decide what is the future for humanity on a global scale. Before we unveil the elitist ideologies of the AI billionaires and Donald Trump's policy, let's start right from the beginning. See, in any industrial revolution, workers are displaced. You know, last time it was factories that came in and replaced human labor. People were scared about being replaced, and they felt like they were no longer needed in repetitive manufacturing. The reason for the massive success of every revolution so far is because certain parts of human output have been taken off our plate. For example, miners got replaced by drills. That allowed the population to focus on things which align with more of the human comparative advantage, which is our intelligence and our consciousness. So it allowed us to be more creative and offer more valuable ways to contribute to society. Now it's changing. Not once has a revolution ever bidded to replace human intelligence, creativity, and even consciousness as a whole. And with Donald Trump's $500 billion Stargate investment funded by nearly every AI billionaire, this revolution will be like no other. Now, let me introduce you to a concept called AI-induced unemployment. Sam Altman even says himself, artificial intelligence will create so much wealth that every adult in the United States could be paid $13,500 per year from its windfall as soon as 10 years from now. He said that 8 years ago. This is a document from the Adam Smith Institute, and they're discussing the difference between this revolution and previous ones. It seems as though transformative technologies have always complemented labor, even if short-term employment shocks were expected. Even when technology had made people unemployed in a specific sector, that pesky invisible hand of the market seemed to ensure industry elsewhere popped up and human labor was never far from a job. So why would any other transformative technology be any different? And this is what we're talking about in this revolution. And I will link this back to why all the billionaires supporting Trump want universal basic income. So this is why they think it's going to be different. Due to the properties and agency of artificial general intelligence, we believe that this time it will be different, mainly because it will touch the physical and cognitive labor with such efficiency and leave humans with little comparative advantage with which to earn a proper market wage. Your wage is a reflection of how much value you're able to bring to a market and how easy that is to be replaced. And so we proceed with this piece under the assumption that artificial intelligence with superhuman abilities in all human tasks and the agency to plan and execute its own strategies, we believe have significant sticky unemployment effects on lower skilled occupations as a conservative minimum estimate. We assume the economy is static and no other jobs can replace with a livable income the jobs formerly lost by the relative economically unproductive labor. This is exactly why AI scares Bill Gates.
So a lot of people these days are concerned about the rise of AI. Does it frighten you? Does it worry you, AI?
Somewhat.
What worries you about it? Like our robot overlords rising up to enslave us? Or the fact that we'll kind of get intellectually lazy and the evolution of our own intellect will stop because we're outsourcing that need to a machine?
Well, it's the first technology that has no limit. I mean, when you invent a tractor or even a cell phone, you kind of figure out, okay, we can figure out how that's going to change life. Here, where the AI is very intelligent, and when you put it in robotic form, it can do a lot of both blue-collar and white-collar jobs.
Think somehow that as humans, we can just think, oh, AI would never get to that point, become superhuman and replace humans. OpenAI currently is worth $157 billion. If 2 years ago, where it's probably worth only $100 billion, Elon Musk and other tech billionaires made a petition to halt AI development due to the risk on humanity and that we're not ready for it. Based on the data set of GPT-4 and OpenAI existing, then this investment, Project Stargate, is clearly going to catapult us into this new industrial revolution, the golden age. See, the thing is, they knew back then, in March 2023, that we were going to go down this route. They knew that AI was going to develop. Even in the WEF's article, they even kind of predict where ChatGPT was going to come in and where that was going to take us up to 2025, how it improves labor productivity, everything like that, like we've seen. However, they clearly can see that something happens from 2025 where labor productivity doesn't increase anymore for the human, but the quality and output and the level of personalization actually becomes greater than what human productivity is by 2030. Now, the reason why I believe they wanted to halt the project, they say it was for the sake of humanity, and I believe that's true, but it's not because we didn't understand it. It's because we didn't have the people in government to implement the necessary policies into place surrounding the AI-induced unemployment, for example, universal basic income, in order to control the outcome in society. It just so happens that 4 months before this petition was implemented, Donald Trump announces that he's going to be running for president in 2024. Now, what could have happened here is that Elon Musk saw this happening and actually saw Donald Trump as an opportunity to push legislation and policy in with the development of AI technology. So Elon Musk wanted to hit the brakes, slow it down, let's pick it up in 2025 with the Donald Trump administration. Now, why are all these billionaires pushing for this to occur? Speaking a lot about universal basic income, but what does universal basic income, what is that actually solving for society? Well, in the same document as the one that the WEF has published, they say that as robots take over, and by the way, this is published 8 years ago, so they had no idea about OpenAI or ChatGPT. As the robots take over, people begin to lose their jobs, but companies will be fine. Actually, more likely than that, they'll thrive. The profits generated from automation could be used to pay a basic wage to those displaced by robots, AI-induced unemployment. They used a welding example beforehand, but a company could slash the cost of their production by at least a third in a short period of time and would continue to see greater profits and efficiency increase and the price for their parts drop. If the company eventually arrives at the $2 an hour mark that the BCG predicts to happen, the company's bottom line would have improved by 1,250%. Now, this is why Donald Trump wants this project to go forward with extreme effect as in a state of emergency, because if China gets to this point before the US, then that means they have the initial comparative advantage, which will massively boost China's economy through international price competitiveness and harm the US's economy. So he knows we are going down this route, and Donald Trump's intentions is good with this, but he knows that we need to do this before China in order to stand a fair chance at competing on the international stage for trade. Now, this is a document from the Harvard Business Review. The ultimate goal of automation technologies is increased productivity. Productivity increases are a primary factor in long-term economic growth. Now, productivity has been unimpressive over the last decade, so the economy needs more growth and more productivity, which is why any politician that wants to massively change the US would look into automation heavily. Any politician who wants to appeal to the business community would be reluctant to provoke a war against automation. Now, this would just fit perfectly into Donald Trump's position, right? The World Economic Forum also said, given all of the savings and massive profits companies are going to reap from these new technologies, they should be responsible for using part of this monetary kickback to help the workers they've displaced. This money could then be used to put into a universal basic income fund that is then distributed by the government to the citizens affected by automation, or the entire population. Let's have a look at what the existing population thinks about universal basic income.
Identity and measuring this. So let's start with basic income. We gave people a definition of what this is. and ask them, would you be for it or against it? And it's quite surprising. 2/3 of it were for it. Now on something more.
And by the way, this video was made 7 years ago, and it just so happens that we've got LGBT, we've got Trump, and we've got the economy. I don't know the links, but it's kind of weird that it just so happens in his explanation, Trump's included in the conversation.
Yeah, the reason to support is reduces financial anxiety.
So he actually tested this concept across tens and thousands of people 7 years ago, and 68% of them said they're in favour. Now, why did they want to do that? Well, the most common reason why they voted for it was because it reduces financial anxiety. This brings me on to the more darker part of this video. Now, let me introduce you to the World Economic Forum's 2030 agenda, which is the Great Reset. And here you can see a map, a big chart showing all the things that they want to improve upon. Whether that's human rights, gender equality, gender diversity, climate change. These are the goals that they want to achieve. But the thing is, everything on this example, on this diagram, is just to dilute one point, and that is digital identity. This is where everything changes, as they know that when they implement the digital identity, they have total control. The way society is currently operating is a complete and total reflection of the actions that the population is taking, including the lower class, including the upper class, and the billionaires. Everything is a complete cause and effect of the way society is structured. Now, obviously, in the World Economic Forum's opinion, we have a load of issues that we need to solve. And a quote from Einstein is something like, if you continue with your current actions expecting a different outcome, that is insanity. Now, the WF knows this, and they know that they need to get mass population to change their actions. And the way they're going to do this is through a digital identity. What that looks like is, it's like a social profile about you. However, it's not your Instagram or LinkedIn profile where it's your email and password and Mark Zuckerberg owns the account. This is directly attached to you, and that could be tied to Web3, which we can get onto in another video. When they have that, things like speeding tickets or where you spend your money or when you travel, everything comes together into a digital profile on you. And the way that they can use this data, this is allowing them to collect ultimate data about what you do. They can use their policies and the achievements that they want to achieve as almost rules in the way that they expect the population to act in order to achieve their objectives. Now, let's say you want to take your family away on holiday to Spain. Now, each flight may cost 50 CO2 points or tons of CO2 emissions. And there might be a fine for if you commit 100 CO2 emissions per household, you're faced with a $300 fine. That might seem fine, but if you're on a universal basic income and you're only being allocated $2,000 a month, that is control. And they will use that against you in order for you to act in the way that they want you to act in order to achieve society's outcomes. Oh, by the way, it just so happens if you search for the Great Reset, we get a certain type of image that's coming up, a Great Reset. 2030 just so happens that it perfectly aligns with Bill Gates, something that he's wearing. So it's clearly orchestrated. Now, God forbid that things like facial recognition, and here in the UK, the government have actually started implementing facial recognition in the streets. People are walking down the streets and seeing facial recognition in action, looking for people with a criminal record. If a digital identity gets linked to that, you could leave your house and the government will know you've left your house. So if something like COVID lockdown happens, then they know that, and then they can cut your universal basic income depending on how well you behave. The purpose of me telling you this isn't to scare you. It's to show you a different side of the coin. It's to unveil a light on the other side of the argument, one that you may not have heard before. And what that's going to allow you to do is it's going to allow you to make a more rational decision based on what you want to bet on for the rest of your life. For me personally, I was aware of this for the past 3 years, and when I was 18 and I finished my exams for high school, I wanted to bet on myself, because I know that when I bet on myself, I'm going to create my own value, and it's going to be very difficult to ever be replaced. However, some people like to bet on the fact that they're going to get a job, how effective their degree is, or the fact that their boss is going to promote them to this job, betting on external factors. And when you're buying something and you're confused, you never just say, yes, I'm going to buy it. If you're confused in the buying process, you say no. So what I'm showing you here is an opportunity for you to say no. And in my next video, I'm going to be creating a video about how the education system has been orchestrated over the past 200 years. And I'm going to show exactly how this perfectly aligns with the 2030 agenda and how it all comes together for elites to gain control and to ultimately massively increase the extent of inequality with one super idle class and one ultra rich corporation class. So subscribe if you would like to see that video.